Okay, so I am super excited about this hair because it turned out a lot better than I thought it would. Obviously, there's a few spots where some of the other colors stayed through, but oops. Since we don't bleach it all the way down, since that, is very hard on it and has broken a lot of my hair in the past, we'll take it. And there's like this random spot where it didn't get bleached, but that's alright. Super happy with how it turned out because I love these colors, and I'm pretty confident that if I could make this happen year round, this would probably be my go-to because I love these colors. It actually kind of stupidly came together in nail polish before the wedding that should never have been. I ended up with these 3 different colors of nail polish that happened to be the orange, the pink, and the purple. And I loved how they looked together. I was like, ooh. So ever since then, they've pretty much been my favorite colors. So yeah, so I've talked about building my brand on here, which I'm working on putting the logo together. Had some issues on the drawing end of things since I'm not spectacular at drawing. I am capable at drawing, but it takes a lot of thought and effort and energy to focus on it and make it happen and work right. And as I've mentioned before, when I was drawing my vulture picture that turned out a lot better than I thought it would, it was basically, it took up most of the 8x10 or 8x11 paper that I had, right? Because I don't do well with shrinking it down in my head so far. Need to practice this. So, not that it'd be impossible. I know I have drawn a vulture before, and it was based off the one I took a picture of. So I'm pretty sure I could do it again, but to make it small enough to fit into the logo like I would want it to be, that's where my snag is. I haven't tried drawing the hawk yet. I saw one yesterday flying, and I really should have taken a picture of it because it was like moving slow-mo, like it was trying to be seen by me. I was walking the dogs, and I just looked up because it was like moving really slow. And I thought about getting my camera out and just but I really just kind of want to enjoy this moment. So I just kind of watched it, and it was really cool, but then when it was gone, I couldn't see it anymore. When I was driving, after we were done with our walk, had the dogs in the car, and we were on the way out of the school parking lot, because we just walked around school grounds yesterday. I saw it again, but it was so high up that I could not, focus on it long enough to get it in sight on the camera and to actually take a picture of it, so it didn't work out that way, which was sad, but is what it is. I did get a picture of the heron that scared the crap out of us. I had been hiding in the bushes over in this one spot at the pond that we were walking around, and did not notice it until we were probably within 30-40 feet of it, and then all at once it takes off to go to another area of the pond further off. I did get a picture of him, so that was pretty cool. And the day before, I got this picture of a praying mantis that was made his appearance when I was skating, and luckily I did not run him over. But when I went back to get my camera ready to take a picture of him, he was not happy. But I still got a picture, so I've talked before about how I kind of feel like part of what I'm doing right now is taking pictures to go along with the stories that I write, right? And I was okay. I've been thinking a lot about the writing, and I mentioned the bear that changed my life, right? And writing a little thing to go along with that, and then having, of course, the picture of the bear that I took from the zoo that won the contest, and putting it on vocal, right? So the past few days, I have been, I'll have like random thoughts come to mind and I'll write it down. It's like, ooh, that's like a poem title or like a line in a poem perhaps. And so I've just been writing things as they come to mind on that end, right? Just like themes or topics or whatever. And yesterday, while my mom was helping me with my hair, I was kind of thinking, it's like, I have this vocal media thing, and I've talked about it a few times. Had like 6 things posted, I think, and the first 5 were from like 4 years ago. So there again, what happened 4 years ago was, it was that connecting point on the twin flame path where I suddenly encountered this energy and then went through this phase of feeling very unsafe in my own body, and it started like this big, massive healing process, right? So along with that, there was the 30-day book writing challenge that had come across my path on Instagram, I think it was. I was like, okay, well, I know I'm supposed to write, so I should, do this challenge, right? But then the glitch that I had on that end was I kept going to the negative and then getting stuck, right? And that's something I've been talking about a lot recently with why I haven't been able to make more strides on the writing thing when I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And so, I did the Hay House Writers Workshop thing last week, but I also did it a year or 2 ago. I don't honestly remember. Probably, it was a couple years ago. I would say 22 or 23. Won't say 100%, but I think so. Because it was after the 30-day book writing challenge, and that was in 2021 because I have emails that I saved from that whole thing. And so, that of course was where the twin flame thing came up, right? So I was trying to make a habit of doing the writing, and then I see this guy's doing a live stream. It's like, what the fuck's a live stream? What does this mean? And I randomly clicked into it, and like the first one, I was just kind of enjoying the cozy atmosphere of the space, right? Because it was similar to what I have in my workspaces, right? With the lighting and everything. And the lighting that makes me happy is all the bright and colorful things, right? Usually I had like aqua lighting on my desk when I would be working at my desk for any reason. That was kind of my go-to. Or like the things with the flashy colors, like my waterfall that I've shown on here, but it's been a long time since I had it hooked up. It ran out of water. Well, I dumped the water out of it when I went to rearrange my room, and then it has just been on my desk, and I've actually been thinking about packing it up since I've been talking about trying to make the shift into being more prepared to go elsewhere when that opportunity arises, right? But anyway, lots of bright, colorful things, right? So the first time in the live stream, that's what I'm distracted by. So, ooh, this is a cozy atmosphere. This is like what I do in my space, kind of a thing. And then the next one, where I was like actively procrastinating because of the writing, and I had been writing, and then it got heavy, and then it just kind of went. So, yeah. So on that one, he said something about wrapping it up like real quick after I got there. I was just like, well, damn, it's like late to the party. What am I going to do to procrastinate on writing now? Something like that. And he responded, and that goes back to the whole mouse running through the kitchen thing, and it felt really weird and imposing that I'd been spotted in this space suddenly, because I wasn't expecting that he would say anything, and then he did, and there's just weird. So yeah. But what I've been realizing was, because I wasn't ready to focus on the writing project, right? It's like, I know this is the thing that like the rest of my life is on the other side of this writing project, but there's been all these things blocking me from being able to do that. And so, you know, when this whole connection thing came up, it was a matter of basically forcing me to go through the healing process that I kept trying to deny that I needed to do. I mean, not that I had any problem denying that I was like broken. I mean, I was completely accepting of that. But I think the idea that I was capable of doing the healing work was a whole nother thing. You know, so then there again, when I turned my love and career lives over to the universe to take the lead on, which there again, the writing, and, you know, like the idea of this big, amazing love story kind of a thing, like that is the big thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And, you know, as far as writing about, and 11/11. So, I don't know. So, anyway, I started vocal media in 2021 because I figured it would give me a space to publish things that I've actually put out there, right? So I was actually putting something out there where it could be found. And most of what I put out wasn't that good. Because I had, you know, I've talked about like the times when, like, I even submitted things for challenges, but back then I had this block on believing that I was worthy of winning anything. So it's like whatever I was able to turn in wasn't my best because I had that block where I was like automatically waiting to self-sabotage just to keep me from proving myself wrong, really. But then, you know, the whole thing with the bear picture was maybe somebody else would get some enjoyment out of it. Completely detached otherwise because I didn't know of any prize package standing in the way of my worthiness in that moment to, you know, to block me from doing it. So I did it. And then when my bear won, then it changed fucking everything, right? But it also forced me to make some realizations as far as some of the stuff that happens that has continuously discouraged me on the creative endeavors in the past. And so thus the healing. You know, but like the whole, okay, so 2023, commit my love and career lives over to the universe to take the lead on, figure out who this person is to me, and immediately didn't believe it, right? So, you know, my response when that intuitive hit of that's the one you've been looking for all your life came in was, yeah, right, he's out of my league. And the response back was, are you gonna let us do this, or do you want to do it your way again? Because that's worked so well for you in the past. So I was like, well, what do I have to lose, right? So it's like, all right, I'll bite. We'll pretend that this is a possible scenario, right? Going back to that, I was watching a lot of Abraham Hicks way back when, and they, you know, one of the things they kept saying was, when you're ready to be ready, then the universe will set you up with the lessons you need to get you ready to, you know, to get where you want to go, to do the things you want to do, and to be the person you want to be, essentially. So I was like, all right, well, that's all I got, right? So the whole thing was just this whole means of forcing me to do the work. And to start with the work, you know, the first thing that really came into my awareness was he had to be in the spotlight for me to find him, but how was he ever going to find me if I didn't start doing more than I'd ever done for him to find me, right? So the YouTube thing happened. And, you know, as I've said many times, you know, I was not actively trying to grow this thing at all initially, because I didn't know what I was doing with it. I was just kind of rambling and crying a lot. And then what it ended up being was this talk therapy for my healing process, right? So, you know, like my brother was actually going to therapy, so we would have conversations on that end, but a lot of the insight on the therapy end of things that I had was, you know, I went to school for psychology, so that was, you know, common discussion point. And then I worked in mental health and, you know, was connected to all these therapists with the clients at the group home, you know, so it was just like little things, you know, and they would have their suggestions with how to interact with the clients from time to time. So it was like these kind of things, right? So it's like everything that I've brought into this YouTube space has been, you know, the stuff that I've learned along the way, picked up along the way, and then just work on processing, right? So I've been processing through it, getting it out of my system, and as I've done that more and more, I've finally gotten to the point where I can look at the writing endeavor and not be completely terrified by it anymore, and I'm not going to say that I'm completely out of the self-sabotage thing, because I still have a hard time focusing, and not getting distracted by other little odds and ends as they come up. But I'm getting immensely better at being able to write more seriously. And, you know, like there's been things that have come up along the path. Like, okay, so one of the things that I realized today, or last night, was, okay, so I wrote this thing called Vultures back in the fall last year, I believe, fall 2024, and I read it. I think I did a video where it was just reading the thing, and then I did another video where I read it, and I think I included it in the description, and it was in a bigger video. Like, so it was like a regular length video that I just was like, hey, I'm going to read this again. So last night I'm sitting there getting my hair done. It's like, why don't I put that on there, on this vocal media thing, right? It's like I have, excuse me, I paid for the subscription for the whole year, right? So I can post stuff as often as I want. And like that was the biggest thing. It's like I never put Vultures on there. And then I was thinking this morning, it's like that, you know, letter to the beloved that I did on the YouTube post. It's like, that could be on there. Why isn't that on there? Well, that was the first thing I put on there. I have yet to find Vultures again. I thought I printed it out somewhere as well, which would mean that I have it typed up somewhere. But I cannot find it on my computer. So I'm looking at my notebook situation and trying to figure out which one it's in, so I can type it up, I guess, and then post it in the space that I, you know, haven't posted a whole lot in for the past few years, right? So, okay, so I think I had like 5 things I posted back in 2021, and, you know, I even kind of went from the angle that I talked about doing the other day. I talked about, you know, I have all these weird sort of lessons that I've gained from wildlife encounters along the way, right? So like the bear and what I learned about myself because of that whole contest situation, the situation with my parents, and what came up with that whole mess the day after I found out that I won, and then realizing where the block on my own, well, on me allowing myself to do anything came from, right? And then, of course, going back to like the Mama Cardinal and realizing that ultimately, you know, I was kind of, all my creations, like my writing endeavor and all this stuff, it's like anytime I haven't felt safe, which is like most of my life, I wasn't leaving myself space to be creative. You know, I was actively self-sabotaging because I didn't think I could create anything worthwhile. I don't know what kind of bug that is, but he needs to stay off my head. Right, but like, so for the cardinal, like, she destroyed her egg because she realized that wasn't a safe space to have her nest. So it was like, that's basically what I'm doing. It's like, anytime I've tried to start giving myself space to create, to write, to draw, to paint, or whatever, like, to any of these things, it's like, as soon as I felt unsafe at all, which is most of my life, you know, I automatically blocked myself, you know, shifted to self-sabotage, to prevent myself from, I guess, essentially getting hurt because, you know, because I put my heart out there, right? So, like, that's been the big thing, right? But, okay, so what I was talking about the other day was I have a lot of these stories, especially the past couple of years, you know, and there's like this whole thing with tigers and how important they've been on, like, the twin flame path. Like, initially 2023, there again, turned love and career over to the universe, and then all this weird shit starts happening, and then I'm aware of this twin flame connection, and all these things start shifting. The biggest thing that kept coming up, there's like a constant stream of like tiger symbols that just kept coming across my path, and like, you know, maybe in music in some way, but frequently in cards. Like the Animal Apothecary deck has two tiger cards, and one speaks to the masculine energy of it, and it's about claiming your power, and the other one is about the feminine energy, and it talks about the importance of setting boundaries, and, you know, it talks about how Tigress doesn't think twice about whether she should allow something toxic in her environment, you know, and she knows what makes, you know, if she's in an area where there's like a bunch of other tigers, there's going to be not enough food to go around, so she tends to go places where there aren't a bunch of others of her out, because then she's got food, and tends to be closer to the water because it's relaxing, and because, you know, because you need water, and all these kinds of things. But like, those cards kept coming up, and then, you know, of course, the zoo day where I talked about having the tigress at the zoo that seemed like she was just staring at me, and I got a picture of her that was this beautiful picture of this tigress just staring at me, and then, you know, like, there were all these little kids around, but it's like she came up to the glass and like was just pacing in front of the glass and staring at me the whole time. It's like, I really wanted to get closer. There's some kind of funky bug. Okay. Sorry. Some kind of funky bug on my phone. But anyway, the biggest thing was, that was kind of my intro. All the tiger recurring things were like a constant reminder that I needed to, be mindful of my boundaries, right? And then after that, when I started going to the classes at Inner Path, when I went to the Lanita's class, she said the first thing she does with new students is to check in with your guides to see what it is or how she can best help you. And what she said was that I needed to work on my boundaries and work on shielding and protecting my energy. Like, that was the most important. And she said clairsentience is good, but need to work on what's it called? Claircognizance. And the silly thing at that time was, and it goes back to that whole boundaries thing. It was, okay. In November, I retired from roller derby. November 2023. Right. November 2023, I retired from roller derby. And when I started going to these classes at Inner Path, when I went to Annie's class and talked to her afterwards, I said something about roller derby, and she got all excited and was talking about somebody else from the group previously that had been in roller derby. And the conversation we had made me doubt myself. When I went and left, it's like, okay, so if it's okay for me to go back to roller derby, then this will happen. Okay, the friend that I stopped talking to for a while, and she just recently sent me a message again the other day. That friend, I said, okay, when I was still talking to her like daily, I said, all right, if it's okay for me to go back to roller derby, she's going to reach out and she will say something derby related. And, it didn't happen. Instead, what happened is I go to this class and she says I need to work on boundaries and shielding and protecting my energy. And she said clairsentience is good, claircognizance needs some work. And of course I'm there, and I just had that conversation about if it's okay for me to go back to roller derby was the night before at the other class. So then it was like, when I was driving home, it was like, I knew that was going to be the case. And what ended up happening was it ended up being like 2 weeks before I heard from that person again. And then when I did, it had nothing to do with derby at all. So it's like, yep, I'm definitely not supposed to do derby right now. This is just, that's old news, I guess. We're not going back that route. But when that whole thing came up, it was just like, yep, yeah, I get that. And I kind of knew that was the case anyway. I was just kind of, wishful thinking, and yeah, it was a cool thing, and I was starting to have fun with it, and I have been skating a lot by myself, so maybe it would be cool to be more improved at skating and whatnot, because I had people all the time talking to me about wanting to go watch me play and whatnot. People that had been into derby back when it was popular, and then, oh, hey, they know somebody that's playing now, I'd love to come watch, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. And then, my family, especially my brother and sister-in-law and Gracie, like, they enjoyed going. But then when I stopped going, I had my aunts and uncles would go to, at least on my mom's side, they were pretty more regular than my dad. I think his youngest sister did go at one point, but yeah, it was just like, my brother would throw stuff out all the time. It's like, I know, it was cool, it was fun, I was starting to get more confident with it and everything, and I was like, yeah, at least after the first season, once I became more aware of the importance of protecting my energy, like I had this, I think it's like a rainbow obsidian necklace. So my yin yang one, this one's like black obsidian, but I had another one where it's just like a cord, and I had just like a little ball thing on it, and for a long time that was all I had. And when I first started talking to someone, the friend that would go on to tell me that I would get into tarot card reading at some point, and actually I have a shit ton of cards now thanks to her, mainly because she was talking about it. That's going to be something that you do. It's like, it's not something that I do for other people, it's something I do for myself, but I love the cards, and I love the messages that I get from the cards, and just the way the messages even come up. My nose is itchy. But yeah, but I ended up with this massive collection. But she was talking about, because I mentioned I was working at Amazon at the time. She said that I needed to start protecting my energy back then, right? So that was 2019, 2020, back when I started working there. I don't know, at one point I got the obsidian, but I had just the little ball necklace for a while. And what ended up happening with that one was I went with my brother and sister-in-law and Gracie to the Ark Museum in Ohio, Kentucky. It's like real close to the border, I think, but I can't remember exactly where it's at, but it's there. But we went because they had like a little zoo thing that they wanted Gracie to see, and if 2019, she'd have been like 3. If 2020, potentially 4. So she was young, right? And when we were around all these people, like she used to get really overwhelmed, and like she would have like headphones with her iPad, and she would hide under the table anytime we'd go to like restaurants and stuff. So when we ended up at this museum, and she was kind of starting to act like she was getting overwhelmed, I took the necklace off and put it on her to see if that would help, and it did seem to help. So, then it ended up being this thing where I let them have the necklace. So, if they went anywhere where it was a thing that would be potentially helpful, then she had it, right? So I ended up getting my yin yang. But I got another one of those obsidian, just the round ones. And there for a while I was skating in it and everything, but I'm better about skating and not feeling like I'm completely getting overwhelmed everywhere I go now. So if I'm doing physical activities, and yeah, it's just not as much of a problem that way. But yeah, okay, why did I do that? Why do I ever do anything? Who knows? Did I finish the vocal thing? Kind of. I think. I don't remember. Protecting energy, I think, I don't know. Anyway, once that whole thing with Juanita in the class came up, and I was like, no, I can't go back and do roller derby again. I'm not supposed to be there. And I've talked about when I made that connection that it was time for me to go. One of the things that had happened was, as I started skating by myself out in the community, I started having this sense of being connected to these people on this other level energetically, right? And like I could hear them around me and feel them around me. And then, like for the, after the Halloween bout 2023, I went to a new skater workshop to kind of help out if any of the new skaters had any questions, concerns, kind of a thing, and potentially be another body there to assist if needed, basically. And while I was in that space, it's like I'm here amongst these people that I can see and could reach out and touch. If for any reason, it's like they're there in my physical experience, but at this other level, it's like I'm still very aware of this other connection. And to be honest, I'd rather be in that other connecting space than with the people I'm aware of in the physical. So it's like, yeah, I just feel like maybe I'm better skating by myself, right? So I dropped derby. Oh, I know what that was. When I started wearing, or when I had the necklace and was wearing that to derby, I stopped looking like I was going to cry every single time I had my picture taken, because there were a bunch of pictures that first season that were taken of me that I just look like I'm going to cry. It's like, what the fuck is with my face? And then, as I started setting these boundaries and started to protect my energy a little bit as best I could without knowing, because I didn't really know much of anything at that point. I was just kind of experimenting with some things, and the obsidian was one of them. It's like, hey, I can actually take pictures and not just look like I'm going to cry now, so what the fuck's that all about, right? And I think like a big part of that now, what I realized was just like those the leaky energies. It was like the lack of boundaries of people around me, and like those energies just kind of latch onto me, right? So I'm aware of that now, and I became aware of that because of this vultures thing that I, was thinking about after I started seeing vultures everywhere. And then it's really starting to make sense of like the symbolism behind the vulture and what that meant for me in my own life, and going to that transmuter point, right? So I wrote this thing and I read it on YouTube, and it's like, now I just don't know where it's at. I know I got it somewhere. I'll find it again, and it will get posted on Vocal. But yeah, it was just so frustrating when I realized I couldn't find it. It's like, I was pretty sure I had typed it up, but I'm pretty sure I can't find it, so oops. So yeah. Before I came over here, I was looking through stuff on my computer to see if I could find it. And while I couldn't find it, it's like, I do have a bunch of shit on here that I've written. It's like, I'm sure I could go through and make some of that worthwhile to use in that space, right? So, ouch. My wound from the door getting run over my foot. Yeah. Kindly disregard the fuzzy legs. They're not extremely fuzzy, but still. Yeah, I don't know. That spot's annoying me though. And the dogs keep trying to start messing with it, and my shoe is rubbing against it, and that's always annoying. Skates don't bother it, so that's fun. Anyway, wander back from that tangent. Okay, so I've talked about the mouse situation recently, and like my dad's had this thing where, for forever he's had this sense of somebody else is supposed to clean up after him, right? Like before his strokes, he was already of that mindset. So the strokes have just, kind of amplified it. But also he's now blind in one eye, and I don't know how well he can see out of the other one. Excuse me, but he should be able to have the awareness that, my mom stopped getting the bagels that were multi-grain with all the different like seeds and whatnot, because that seemed to be a problem with the mouse situation, right? And so there were all these seeds everywhere from, the bagels he was having pretty regularly for a while. And then one day I pull a thing, I decide I'm going to have a sweet potato, and I pull this thing of brown sugar out of the pantry, and I set it on this thing on the stove. It was a pan, and when I picked it up again, I found there was mouse poop. I was like, oh no. So that's never exciting, but let alone when you're trying to mess with food anyway, it's like, and Well, I don't remember all the details on that. What I know is we ended up finding out we had mice, right? And of course, I have birds which get food everywhere because, you know, they break the little pellets in their beaks and it goes everywhere. This morning I was eating a breakfast bowl in there, and when I looked down, there was a pellet next to the bowl. It's like, cool, glad that didn't go in my food. Gross. Bug. But yeah, like the dogs are really good about trying to clean it all up because they love bird food apparently. Ziva just loves food, period. Same with Taz, but yeah, they like bird food too. But still, that's something that I know is common for, you know, people with birds tend to, you know, they'll occasionally have issues with mice trying to get to the bird food, right? So especially when we have all this construction on the road we live off of, and, you know, it's fall now, so they're like messing in the fields and doing all that fun stuff. And then of course my dad's leaving the mess in the house, and then, you know, they had a place to go. So we found the issue. We found there was an issue, and then, I found that the day that there was the 2 little mouse turds on the pan, and I mentioned it to my mom, and when she got to looking on the counter, that I don't know if it was just a really long time since the crumb trays had been emptied out or what, but there was this massive stash of like crumbs everywhere, and she's like, come over here and look at this, and she's like, please tell me that's not, and it's like, oh, it is, it totally is, mouse poop all up in that, and it looked like a lot of mice, that matter. So we got some mouse traps and caught 4, questioning whether there might be another one. It's starting to look like maybe not, but after we caught the 4th, because we caught 3 one night and then the next day we caught another one, somewhere in there I went to get into a box that had like pads and stuff in it, and it had mouse poop off to the side, and well, at the front of it. Luckily it didn't look like they got too far into it, but there was still, I don't know if they lived there. I don't think they were there very long, but I put a glue trap under the sink and haven't caught anything on it yet. But I don't know when they were there, so I don't know if it was the one that got caught later, or what happened on that end. And my mom said she found mouse poop in the closet that had Gracie's toys in it recently. So Saturday, or Friday and Saturday, I started clearing stuff out of the pantry. Saturday I got all the rest of it out of the pantry and was like wiping down the shelves and reorganizing it. We were trying to figure out, you know, first off, how much shit we had that was all already expired. That was fun. Or that they had gotten into, and I don't think they'd been there long. But yeah, so I think I pulled out, like, the first day I got like 4 bags of trash out of there that was mostly expired chips or cereal or whatever like that. And then, you know, it was like 7 bags altogether, but other trash was going into it. Not just the shit in the pantry that we were clearing out, but that was still a lot of shit that was just getting thrown away. And of course there were a few things that they actually got into, but not a huge amount, which is why, you know, we're pretty convinced that they hadn't been there for long, even though we kind of freaked out after we saw the counter and the immense amount of poop that was there. But yes, that was Saturday's project, right? And so it was a big ordeal. We We finally got it all. The pantry. Well, it's not done yet. It's mostly done. The thing we're doing is still cleaning like the pots and pans and whatnot, and those are going into the pantry in an organized fashion rather than the way they were just kind of haphazardly thrown in there before. The dog food, their breakfast food, is now in the pantry, and Ziva thought that was a great idea, except for I wouldn't let her get into the box. So I said, so long as we keep the pantry door closed, we can have this in here. And we're talking about putting the dog treats in there too. Haven't decided if that's going to work yet. Still need to figure out the rest of the pots and pans first, because there's so much shit to clean. Because of course, found out they were in the silverware, and like multiple silverware drawers. I mean, one's silverware, the other's like spatulas and other big utensils and whatnot. So everything's getting washed, and is a pain in the butt. On a only partly relevant point, when I got ready for Saturday, I knew I was mostly just going to be cleaning the pantry. I did walk the dogs, so, and I think that day I skated 7 miles, and then I walked the dogs a little over a mile or a little under a mile. And then I didn't take a shower because I knew I was going to want to take a shower after I spent all day playing and stuff that mice had potentially been in. So it's like by the time I finally got around to taking a shower that night, it's like, I feel gross. But yeah, we mostly got the pantry situation handled, and we feel immensely better that we think we caught them all. Again, we don't know for sure, but of course, like with the poop and the places that it's been found. Okay, so the laundry room, okay, we haven't found anything there, but that's the assumption of where they got in at. However, there's also the possibility of the dog door, although it's 2 panels, and they have this magnetic piece at the bottom that I feel like would probably be heavy duty enough. It should be able to keep the mice out. I don't know, but that was a thought as well. But anyway, for like the Gracie's closet is like, okay, so there's the kitchen, and then there's the family room, and the closet is at the front corner of the family room. And then, there's the closet, and then the next room is a bathroom, and then the next room from that with the door and the kitchen side is the pantry. And, the laundry room is by the kitchen, right? So nothing's directly connected to that one except the kitchen, the hall, and the hallway. My bathroom is on the next room down from the laundry room, going the other way, right? So it's like for there to be mouse poop under my bathroom sink, and also in Gracie's closet, and this bucket by my dad's desk. It's like a wide spread, and of course they could come in from the garage too, and just somehow manage to creep in when somebody leaves the door cracked open or something, which I feel like that's less likely because there's usually dogs there, and they would notice if a mouse came in because they're on the ball with it, most of the time anyway. I don't think they had the time to be aware of them in the house. Because like the one time when I was first got back up here, I wanted to say probably 2020-ish, we had a mouse in the house, and it was in the laundry room, and Taz heard it, and as soon as he heard it, he locked in on it, and he did not quit until that thing stopped moving. And it was like, I don't know, like an hour of him just like all these hijinks with like trying to get the mouse trying to get away. The mouse was in Holly's mouth at one point, it was in Ziva's mouth at another point, but it did not stay there, and they didn't kill it, they just caught it, and then it got loose again, and then he was back on it, and it, you know, it was like laundry room, kitchen, my dad's desk area, and just kind of back and forth through this area. And what finally happened was it ended up over by the trash can next to the pantry. And I think it went up under the trash can, like the little pedal on it, and then came out the other side because it was just trying to, you know, be hidden away from him to go to the next space. And he was there waiting, and he just like punched it like real hard with his nose. And once it stopped moving, he just like, okay, you know, and walked away. So it was really impressive, but he didn't have the time to ever hear them, I think, during the day enough for that to be what happened. And, you know, they ended up getting caught in the mouse traps, which is fine. It took care of the problem. But yeah, that was a whole freaking ordeal. Anyway, this stupid thing that happened that I wrote about this morning, that was from Saturday. Okay, so I mentioned the other day that I got this new birth control pill, right? And I hadn't been on anything for like 6 years. And it took some time before my system really got a consistent schedule, but I had finally gotten there. Saturday I accidentally forgot the pill, and I discovered very quickly that I don't like birth control, because, you know, I had this, okay, normally my periods are very heavy, and they're very consistent, right? So it's like there's going to be the first day, the second and third days are really, you know, I'm going to be taking a lot of ibuprofen and Tylenol and using a lot of like heat and all that stuff. But then once it starts, you know, once we start coming back down from that, then, you know, once the brunt of it is over with, it's not that big of a deal. However, the time that I have to deal with it, it sucks. It's heavy. It's painful. You know, like the whole reason I got on birth control when I was in undergrad to begin with was because, you know, there was a night that my roommate thought she was going to have to take me to the ER because I was in so much pain, and ended up finding out that I had like ovarian cysts that kept coming up and I guess potentially rupturing and causing a bunch of issues. So, yeah, birth control solved the problem. But it's like I got used to my schedule and it was consistent. But then I skipped the pill the other day. I just forgot, just once. And it still hasn't gone away. So it's like the one that I had after the first, you know, I had the first round of 3 weeks of pills or whatever, and then the 4 days, what was it, 24 days, I don't know what it is. Anyway, like the 3 weeks or whatever, and then there's the 4 that are, you know, blanks to have a period, right? And so my period was really light. It was like, I don't trust this. And of course I don't trust this because, you know, it's like the, you know, I'm used to my cycles at this point, and yeah, they're not always 100%. I've had months where they've been, you know, it's like a 29-day cycle, and then randomly there's a 23-day cycle. It's like, not a fan of that. But usually I'm pretty in tune with the moon, and I kind of appreciated that. which on that end, I guess I'm kind of back with the moon, because there's a full moon tonight. But anyway, forgot one fucking pill. And I took it the next day when I realized it. And immediately upon forgetting the pill, throws me into another start. It's like, not a fan of this. And of course, you know, painful, because I didn't get it all out of my system the last time. So this fucking sucks. Right? So yeah, got it. And I think I put it in my calendar yesterday, and my app was like, are you sure? It's like, yes I am, and it's pissing me off and blah blah blah, but yeah, whatever. So yeah, so like, I guess we're on day 2 of that now, you know. But it's like, I've been taking, I mean, I took the pill yesterday, I took it today. It's like, how long is it going to be before it goes back away again? Right? So then I woke up this morning and I was writing some, and I was like, I really don't think I'd like it. I think I liked being in tune, like having my fairly regular cycle and knowing what to expect, 5555, and not having to worry about, oh, suddenly you fucked up, now you got another one. Huh, damn it. That's not cool. But I definitely didn't get it all out of my system the last time around either, you know. And it takes some time before, you know, to build it, the hormone up in your system enough to have it where they're consistently lighter. It's like, dudes, I am fucking 42, and I think at this point I would just rather it be consistent and know what to expect, rather than have to worry about, oh hey, mystery one because you forgot a day. Damn it. But anyway, I was writing about that this morning, about that, just this whole point of, at least when I was just, you know, I had my cycle consistent, and it was in tune with the moon one way or another. And I have the one app that talks about, like, you know, the different meanings with, okay, whether you're bleeding at the new moon or at the full moon, or if you're on the in-between weeks, right? And it's like, there's the white witch, pink witch, purple witch, and red witch. And I think the red witch is the full moon. No, new moon. I almost swear to either of those. Red and white are at the full and the new, but I don't remember which is which, and I don't remember what they mean. But I liked being consistent about which one I was. Right? And like, it was talking about, like, the one that I lined up with, it was like talking about like healing, and I don't even know what else. But it's like, you know, even throughout like the course of keeping track of when they've been, like, I have 2 different apps, and one of them is just for the sake of keeping track, and the other is for the sake of, you know, I found it later, and, you know, it talks about, you know, the moon and other things, and it's got occasional random facts that it chimes up with, and it gives you a little little daily messages. I think today was something about going back into hibernation. But I didn't tell that app that I fucked up and have another period, so it's not going with, like, I don't know cycle-wise where that's supposed to be at, but it's pissing me off, right? But it was like this whole thing. But anyway, I had this thought. It was like, in the time that I was on the birth control, because I was on it for years, it's like, I'm grateful that I had it. It was, I mean, really kind of nice to not have the heavy ones for a while. But the bigger thing was to you know, didn't have to worry about getting knocked up by somebody whose kid I didn't want to have, right? But then on that end too, it's like, with everything that I've learned about myself in the past couple years, and, you know, realize, like, with this whole twin flame connection and everything, it's like, if I had truly trusted myself and followed my heart early on and not allowed people to talk me out of it, I wouldn't have been involved in the connections that I shouldn't have ever been in to begin with, because I would have been like, no thanks, I'm holding out for this other thing, right? However long it takes, I trust it's going to come around, and that's that, right? But, you know, because I was listening to the world and looking for something outside of me, it was like, you just, connections I shouldn't have been involved with, really. You know, even the guy that I thought I was going to marry, you know, it's like once that whole path became a part of the relationship, it became something that I hid behind, right? So, but going back to when I was in high school and realized that, you know, I had a whole lot of healing that I had to do with this stuff from my family, you know, and I made that, or set that intention that I would not ever have kids if I could not heal the shit that had been dumped on me to have to heal from. Right? So, you know, for a long time, it had to be dead and gone and not an option, because that was my intention that I set in high school, was that I didn't want to, I mean, ultimately, I didn't want to end up in a situation where I could potentially regret somebody in my life like that, because of the circumstances in which they ended up there, right? So, like, I've talked about feeling resented in my lifetime, right? Like my, you know, my dad and the love that got away, but then, you know, he married my mom, and that wasn't because they were madly in love or anything. That was because, well, I don't know all the details, but at the end of the day, part of it was because their connection allowed him to fulfill his duties as the oldest child, taking care of his parents when their time went that way, right? But it's like, I can see so much resentment. You know, and like I've talked on here a lot about how, you know, if something happened to, okay, like if the car blew up with me in it, that my dad would essentially look at it as, hey, 2 problems solved. Now there's no kid, now there's no car, right? The car that's a problem and the kid that was a problem, they're both gone, right? So, you know, just that feeling of resentment. And my brother and I have kind of talked about it, and he understands where I'm coming from, and he gets that aspect of it, but he doesn't fully grasp the misogynistic aspect of my father's BS. You know, so that because my brother is a son, the more acceptable child, he has missed out on a lot of the stuff that I've gotten to experience. And, you know, so like on that end, it's like, so I'm glad that the whole birth control was a thing, since I was taught that I had to find somebody outside of me, you know, basically to save me, to fulfill me, all these things. The biggest thing is, okay, like there was a time, early on, my ex and I were bickering about something, and just out of the blue one day he says, we should have a baby. It's like, fuck no, I will not have your children. It's like, I'm not trying to be stuck with your ass forever. It's like, I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know how it was going to get out of it, but there was always that inner knowing that I was not there forever, that divorce had to be part of my path because it was part of the lessons that I came here to learn, right? So what causes people to get into these toxic marriage situations that they then feel stuck in and can't get out of, right? Well, my family demonstrated that, you know, that was largely a big part of it. So when you have this bullshit idea that, oh, because you're a female, you are somebody's property until you are somebody else's property. But yeah, like that idea was there. but then like all the shit with my family too, right? So my grandfather and his routinely spouting off, my family doesn't get divorced. It's like, I always knew, even while he was saying that when I was younger, that I was the one that was going to have to get divorced because that was his thing, like his claim to fame for some damn reason. It's like, doesn't give a shit if the family's actually happy anywhere. It's a matter of the illusion of making people think that you're happy. Which, I don't do illusions. Fuck illusions, man. But anyway, like the guy that I thought I was going to marry, there was a brief span around the time that we broke up that I kind of hoped they'd be stuck. But then it's like, well, that's not good. That's not a helpful situation to be in. And why would I want to have this co-parenting gig with somebody who doesn't want to be there stuck with me either, right? So it's like, glad I missed that experience. Wish I had been encouraged to trust myself early on, with all the things that I am learning have been accurate from early on. And I've talked about like the twin flame connection. That's like where I am confident he checked in when I was 4 before he incarnated. Right? So it's like, okay, so what does that fucking mean if that's true? And I have my theories. And that's part of the story that I'm writing, right? But yeah. And like on that end of things, I'm really fucking happy I am not stuck with somebody else's kids for that whole thing, right? But like, like the whole fact that I'm glad that I had that as an option back then. So when I was, making bad decisions based on looking for something outside of me to save me and outside of myself to, to marry, because I, as a girl, I'm not supposed to be able to do things by myself. All that bullshit. That is just immensely frustrating that had I been encouraged at all to trust myself and follow my heart, it's like the other shit, that never would have been a thing. But there again, it was a thing because I needed the lessons, because that's what I had set the intention for, and then, to help other people that have essentially found themselves stuck in connections they don't want to be in. It's like to realize that just because you made a bad decision somewhere along the line doesn't mean you're forever stuck or obligated to be stuck to it and can't choose to take your life back and have a worthwhile life of your choosing, right? So yeah. My mom keeps trying to... She doesn't know what's going on with me. She knows I've changed. She's not sure she likes it. I think mostly she doesn't like it. Okay. There's one thing that came up yesterday when we started with my hair. My dad was in the room, and he puts on some dumb shit with politics and the Charlie Kirk shit, where they basically, somebody made him a martyr, so they could have this thing. But yeah, all the sketchy details and the fact that they still don't want to release those files, and yeah, all those things, right? So it's like, totally inside gig. Anyway, my dad had something going last night, and I started going off. And, the political end of it, the whole, churchy end of it, all the bullshit. And the thing is, when I get really pissed off with something like that comes up, it's almost like this sort of there's an aspect of it that's kind of a blind rage, and it's like I can't think, I can't really focus on any of the thoughts, but it's like the mouth is running, and it's just like all this bitching about all this stuff that's like all the bullshit around it, right? And you know, my dad made some smart ass remark about she kind of turns rabid, and you know, my mom said something, and then she comes up and she's like, what happened to make you so jaded? It's like, what happened to make me so jaded? Oh, I've spent the past 2 years trying to heal from the bullshit with my family and found out where the fuck it comes from. Like, I didn't say that. Okay, I didn't say the full extent of it. I said I have been working on figuring myself out, and I have discovered where a lot of the bullshit comes from. And, you know, I left out the family aspect of it. But, you know, she got to a point where she was just trying to push my dad to find something else and to bring the peace back, right? And because, you know, because that's her big thing in life, is being the peacekeeper, right? No, it's not. But anyway, like, just the whole thing. And it's like that. It's always this massive anger and hard time focusing on the words, and like I don't even know when I start bitching if like stuff even comes out coherently half the time. It's just spouting off and very angrily so. But you know, eventually that went away. I think the big thing is I need to next time it's on, I'm going to be like, here's the thing. You're putting this in the space that I'm in. If you want me to not respond negatively, do not put that on in the space I'm in while I'm in it. So if you want to do it on your own time, that's up to you. But if you want me to be peaceful and pleasant to deal with, then that just needs to not be on around me, period. Because it will always bring out the worst. Because at the end of the day, it is essentially with me, you will get back what you are putting out into the world. So if all you are putting into is the hate from the political end of things, and actually thinking that anybody's possibly right or not out to fuck everybody else in the whole political viewpoint, you know, I say that about both sides to them as well. It's like, if you want peace, don't be putting that in the space that I'm in. Period. Because it will come back. It's going to be reflected back, and you're going to think it's like really intense and out of character, perhaps out of my training. I was trained that I'm supposed to buy into the bullshit that my family believes, right? But so much for that. Anyway, like the other part of that, earlier in the day, or maybe it was the day before, I mentioned something about, we were talking about insurance for some reason. Oh, I said it was a good thing that I had set up my physical in October when I was at the doctor, or like when I got to get my wrist checked out after I crashed my skates without knee pads on, and yeah, look at this ridiculousness. I have a scar. I mean, it makes sense, skating without knee pads on, yeah, whatever, but all the same. Anyway, when I went for that, they asked if I wanted to go ahead and schedule a physical. It's like, yeah, what the hell? It's like, I don't know that it'll still be here. If I'm not, then I'll just cancel it, right? So my appointment's on the 15th or 16th, which is a good thing, because November 1st, I have no more insurance. And, you know, like the bigger thing with that is, because the Gracie job has since fallen through, which for some reason they apparently weren't counting that one, because I got a message from there's that Healthy Indiana plan. They wanted income documentation information from Honda. It's like, I haven't worked there since 2023. That was like one of the first things to go when this whole twin flame thing came up, after I committed my love and career over to the universe to take the lead on. And then I got the nose ring and the lip ring, and I was like, I set the intention that I will never again work in a job that asks me to be anything less than 100% who I am. So the first thing I had to go, the job. Because ultimately, it's like, it didn't ask me to go out of my way hugely to be something different, but it was still a big distraction from what I meant to be doing. But it was a time for me to start getting back into the habit of writing. So that was a part of it. But anyway, so I'm not going to have insurance again. So I put my little appointment on the calendar because they got all their appointments on the calendar. It's like, well, don't run over this one because this is my last one while I am covered. And after that, we'll figure it out. But my mom starts kind of poking around with, well, there's no reason you couldn't do more of what you were doing with Gracie. It's like, no, there's actually a really big reason why I couldn't do that. I said, the thing that I liked about doing what I was doing with Gracie was because that's my niece and I was spending a lot of time with her anyway. It's like, I don't want to do this work with people I don't know. I said I worked in mental health for just shy of a decade. On and off. It was not consistently 10 years. It was, there were big gaps because I would do the work and then it would just get so exhausting and I would have to take a break from it. But then I was trained to do this work, so it was easy to get back into the job. And it was, and it paid better than a lot of things would because I had education for that job, right? Because I went to school for psychology and then I end up working in mental health. That makes sense. But yeah. Anyway, so she was like trying to fish for information. I said, look, I'm getting ready to be doing what I'm meant to be doing. It's like, it's right there. It's like the pieces are coming together. I said, and right now it's a matter of, there's still some pieces to be put together, but it's making sense. It's like, the biggest thing is, in this part, I can't tell her, it's like, the fact that, other energies literally latch onto me. if I am around people in my physical space and they have stuff that has to be healed from, it's like that energy just automatically latches on. And part of that was because I invited that. I talked about inviting the demons in. That's essentially, that's suddenly when when I invited the demons in when I was like 12, and now it wasn't because it was funny. It was, I was at a point, everything from the time that I was 8, 7, because that was when my great-grandpa died. It started going consistently downhill, right? So I got to a point where it's like, okay, so if God hates me, then I hate God. It's like, I never doubted God was real. It's like, but if God hates me, then I hate God. So then it was, since I hate God, I'm going to invite this other guy in, right? And it was actually posed as Satan, but I don't believe in Satan. Going back to that, the word for... the word that got translated into Satan, it was not a name. It was the translation for Jewish scriptures was the adversary. And I learned this in seminary, and it blew my mind to the point that I Googled. I don't know, was it... I think it was in my Job class where we talked about it. It might have been a different class. I know the teacher, and I had her for the Job class, and I had her for another class, but I don't remember what the other one was called. And if maybe it was more that, anyway, that's irrelevant. Stop running off. Stop running off. Okay. So she made the comment about, like the word is like Hasatan or whatever, and she said it actually translates to adversary. So then it's like, so you mean it wasn't a name? Huh. What does that change, right? But like the first thing is like this point blew my mind to the point that I was on my computer. I pulled up Google and did a random search for just some random synagogue in Indianapolis, and I sent some random rabbi an email message and was like, so I'm in seminary and we're having this conversation and she just mentioned this. I said, is this true? And he said, yes, that's true. We don't believe that it's an actual figure. It's like, huh, you don't say. But like that whole thing was just like, that really stuck with me, because why would they insert a character that did not previously exist except for to control people? So anyway, so with that, still invited in the demons, and everybody's got demons. And essentially the demons. Okay, so I talked about the video I watched the other day. It was I think her name's Mojaveandwolf on Instagram. But she did a video where she was talking about when it was talking about Mary Magdalene in the Bible and what she got healed from. Like the word was D-A-I-M-O-N, which eventually got shifted to demon, but it was not originally demon. It was essentially chakra blockages, and those everybody has until we don't. And so that's what she got healed from, right? So then when it opens up her chakra system and she's able to receive divine insight, if you will. Of course, she's a woman, so that pisses all sorts of people off. Shoo you. It's a weird bug. I don't know what he is, but he keeps showing up. But yeah, so she was talking about, that like the term of what she got healed from was originally this thing that translates essentially to chakra blockages, not actual demons. So it's like, that makes sense. So if because I've talked a lot about how in middle school, right after this, where I invited it in, I had all these posters on my walls, like Teen Beat, Tiger Beat, whatever else, teeny bop bullshit, right? So I had all these posters on my wall, and after I did this, I got really paranoid. It's like I feel like everybody's watching me. And I had to strip like everything off of the walls. And that goes right along with that point. It's like, so when I'm around people, like one of the things that happened with my my grandfather was, there was this thing that came up, this bullshit thing, but it's like I was in this space where I could sense this energetic conversation that he and my mom were having. It's like it was the conversation beneath the words, right? Where he essentially told her I was a problem and needed to be stopped. Because essentially I was going to be the end of, his illusion. And I've talked a lot on here about hiding, right? Because I didn't want people to see my energy, so I would frequently, especially in school, go hide out in the bathroom, and would I would literally walk from one class to the closest bathroom, whether I had to go or not, to my locker if I needed to go, to the next bathroom if there was one, or if I had enough time and there was one on the way, to spend very little time in the spaces with my peers, because of that point where invited in all the demons. That's essentially other people's blockages that end up getting drawn to my system, because now it's something I have to clear. Going back to that vultures thing that I need to find so I can post it on vocal media. But yeah, it's like, fuck, what did I do to me? It's like I invited this thing in, or all these demons, these blockages from other people, and it became my problem, my burden to bear, my sort of thing that I have to, you know, figure out how to transmute and purge the shit from my system, and then clear it from the whole. And it's like I can't say I regret it, because I honestly, I like this version of me better than I've liked any version of me along the way. And I'm kind of enjoying life these days, but it sucked to get here. It did. And a lot of that was, you know, the whole twin flame connection coming back, right? So it was this thing where I end up connecting with this dude's energy, and all at once I'm aware of feeling very unsafe in my body. It's like, well, now we got to fix that. So, lots of work and lots of stories to be told on that. Lots of stories been told on that. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so it's like everything with a purpose. You know, that's kind of one of those things, like, as I think about that, like that energetic conversation with my grandfather and my mother. It was like, you know, I've talked on here many times about feeling like I was the elephant in the room. It's like, right, I'm this big problem and nobody's willing to look at it and to actually address what's going on. We're going to talk around it. We're going to guilt you and shame you into feeling bad about something that you don't even know what happened and if it actually happened or not. And I found out when I was 35 that it didn't actually happen, but because, you know, it was something that was used to take my voice away from me. Yeah. So then, you know, when I end up spending time with these people that, you know, essentially used guilt and shame to keep me in line, and now they can't keep me in line, and they really don't like it when I start talking and running my mouth. They're not fans of that at all. But I am kind of enjoying it a little more because, you know, I get to stand up for people and things that I never would have before, just because I bought into the bullshit because I thought I had to, right? Because basically all these other blockages that I was picking up along the way that weren't even mine to have to deal with, but became mine to have to deal with. Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. What a trip. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up because it's long enough. And my agenda for this evening, after I watch this and post it, go back to that, finding other things to post on Vocal, and, you know, start sharing my voice more and more. And, you know, like I said, some of those things will have to be tweaked because I was writing them in the space of not really trusting myself and not, you know, like I knew I was supposed to write, but at the same time I didn't believe in my abilities to write, so I was essentially, you know, blocking myself at some level, right? So anyway, and I'm gonna have to do more videos pretty regularly while I got this hair, because I love this hair. And like I said, if this could be my hair all the time, I would be down, because I love these colors. And yeah, and they are like some of the prime colors in my logo if I ever get it done. Maybe I'll doodle on that some more tonight too. And I have taken more pictures of vultures so I can try them in other positions. maybe what I need to do is put my picture, scan it to the computer, and then shrink it down from there. And then, yes, I did draw it, but not that size, but hey, it's still mine. And maybe I'll figure it out, because I know these pieces of what I want for it. I know the name for the brand. I'm really stoked about that, and I can't wait to share that. But I gotta get it, you know, my thing done, and then we'll trademark that shit, right? So, yeah. So on that note, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.